The Spanish-speaking buyer market in the U.S. is not a niche. Hispanic homeownership has been the primary driver of net homeownership growth in the U.S. for the past decade, and in many major markets, Los Angeles, Miami, Houston, Chicago, Phoenix, New York, Dallas, Hispanic households represent 20 to 40% of first-time buyers. Agents who communicate only in English are leaving significant business on the table. The barrier for most agents is not motivation. They want to reach Spanish-speaking clients. The barrier is two things: translation cost, which typically runs $200 to $400 per document package from a professional translation service, and cultural adaptation, which is different from translation. A literal word-for-word Spanish translation of your English listing copy often misses the tone and framing that resonates specifically with Spanish-speaking buyers. In this video, I'll take an English listing description and marketing email and generate both a direct Spanish translation and a culturally adapted version in 12 minutes using ChatGPT. Two versions in one session, literal translation plus culturally adapted, so you can use the one that fits your client best. The translation agency version of this takes 2 to 3 days and costs real money. Quick disclaimer before we go any further. Translated marketing materials are subject to the same fair housing, consumer protection, and advertising standards as English materials in every jurisdiction. In the U.S., the Fair Housing Act applies equally to Spanish-language listings and marketing. The FTC endorsement guides and advertising standards apply in both languages. In Canada and Australia, consumer protection regulations apply regardless of language. An important note on accuracy: AI translation is good but not perfect. Any translated material that goes to a client or gets published must be reviewed by a native speaker before use. If you have a bilingual colleague, team member, or referral partner, ask them to review before sending. This workflow drafts the translation, native speaker review finalizes it. All data on screen is fictional. Some links are affiliate. Here is the distinction between translation and cultural adaptation that most agents do not think about until they try a literal translation and wonder why it falls flat. Translation converts words. Cultural adaptation converts meaning and resonance. A listing description that uses the phrase turnkey in English, meaning move-in ready, no work required, translates literally in Spanish, but does not carry the same marketing connotation for a buyer whose cultural context around homeownership and property improvement may be quite different. Phrases that emphasize family space, multi-generational living potential, kitchen quality, and neighborhood community often land more strongly in culturally adapted Spanish-language materials for many of the buyer demographics agents are reaching in U.S. Hispanic markets. The adapted version is not a different property description. It describes the same property, but it emphasizes the features and framing that tend to resonate most with that buyer profile. I tested both versions, pure translation and culturally adapted, in a small market in the Phoenix area where I have a referral relationship with a bilingual agent. She confirmed the culturally adapted version consistently gets better engagement from her Spanish-speaking buyer clients. The pure translation reads like a translated document. The adapted version reads like it was written for that audience. The input for this workflow is whatever English material you already have: a listing description, an outreach email, a flyer headline, or a section of your website. You do not need to prepare it differently. I will use 2 sample pieces: a 100-word listing description for a fictional property and a short outreach email to a buyer lead. I keep these in a plain text note so they are easy to paste. The only preparation step is to read the source material once and flag any English idioms that are likely to lose meaning in translation. Phrases like curb appeal or move-in ready or motivated seller. The prompt handles these, but knowing they are there lets you review the output more precisely. Now let me open ChatGPT and build the prompt. Here is the complete prompt. Role instruction: you are a bilingual real estate marketing specialist fluent in both American English real estate terminology and Spanish as used in the U.S. Hispanic buyer market. Then the task instruction: for each piece of content below, produce 2 versions in Spanish. Version A is a direct professional translation, accurate, clear, preserving the original structure and meaning. Version B is a culturally adapted version, written to resonate with Spanish-speaking buyers, emphasizing features and framing that connect with values around family space, community, and home quality common in U.S. Hispanic buyer demographics. Version B should not change the facts about the property, only the emphasis and tone. Then the fair housing note. Both versions must comply with fair housing standards. No language that references or appeals to protected characteristics. Then the content block. I will paste the listing description and the email. Listing description sample. This well-maintained 3-bedroom home on a quiet street in Sampleville offers an updated kitchen with granite countertops, a private backyard perfect for entertaining, and a 2-car garage. Primary bedroom with walk-in closet. Original hardwood floors throughout. Close to top-rated schools and a short commute to downtown. Priced competitively for the current market. Then the outreach email sample. Hi Maria, I wanted to reach out about a new listing that just came on market that matches what you described during our last conversation. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, great neighborhood, in your budget range. Would love to schedule a showing this weekend. Let me know if Saturday works. Then the output format. Label each section clearly. Listing description, version A, listing description, version B, email, version A, email, version B. After version B of each, add a 1-sentence note explaining the key adaptation choices. Running the prompt now. For pieces of Spanish content come back, 2 versions of the listing description and 2 versions of the email. Let me compare the listing description versions. Version A is a clean, accurate translation. Version B has a few specific differences worth noting. The phrase perfect for entertaining becomes something closer to a space that brings loved ones together. The adaptation trades the entertaining frame for the family gathering frame, which tends to resonate more strongly in the demographic profile the prompt was aimed at. The walk-in closet description in version B gets slightly more space. Closet and storage space is often a strong selling point. The school proximity line is retained in both versions, but in version B it is slightly more prominently placed in the sentence structure. The adaptation note the model added at the bottom explains these choices in 1 sentence each. A bilingual real estate coach I connected with after a conference reviewed this workflow and noted that the adaptation quality is better for listings than for outreach emails, because listings have more descriptive content to work with. For short emails, the adaptation differences between version A and version B are subtle. Her recommendation was to use version B for website and print materials and version A for direct email to clients where tone matching is more relationship-specific. This step cannot be skipped. Before any AI-translated material goes to a client or gets published on your website, a native Spanish speaker reviews it. This does not have to be expensive or complicated. If you have a bilingual colleague, a bilingual assistant, or a bilingual referral partner in your market, a 5-minute review is a reasonable ask. If you do not have that in your network, professional bilingual real estate translators typically charge $40 to $80 for a 1-page document review, much less than the full translation service cost, because the AI has done the heavy work and the reviewer is checking rather than creating. The review catches 2 things. First, regional Spanish variation. U.S. Spanish varies significantly between Cuban-American communities in South Florida, Mexican-American communities in Texas and Arizona, Puerto Rican communities in New York and Chicago. A generic Spanish translation may use phrasing that is technically correct but sounds formal or slightly off in a specific regional dialect. Version B adaptation helps, but local review is the final layer. I was going to skip the review recommendation in this video because it complicates the workflow and I wanted to keep it to a clean 12-minute demo. But after the coach review I mentioned earlier, I added it back. The review step is what makes this a professional workflow rather than just a productivity hack. Time from this session. Preparing 2 pieces of source content and pasting into prompt, 3 minutes. Typing the full prompt, 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Waiting for 4 outputs, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Reviewing all 4 Spanish outputs against the adaptation notes, 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Total, 13 minutes and 30 seconds. Before this workflow, either outsourcing to a translation service at $200 to $400 and 2 to 3 days turnaround, or using Google Translate for a rough translation that lacks the adaptation layer entirely and often has noticeable quality issues for professional materials. The workflow here produces a draft that is significantly better than machine translation and close to professional translation quality for common marketing materials at approximately 10 to 15% of the cost after adding a native speaker review. For agents serving mixed language markets, having a Spanish version of core marketing materials, listing descriptions, outreach emails, website FAQ, is a competitive differentiator that most agents in those markets still do not have. The full translation and adaptation prompt is in the description. Paste your English materials in and run it. I linked a simple checklist for the native speaker review process: what to flag, what to approve, how to give feedback on the adaptation choices. The free prompt pack in the description has this plus 9 other marketing and content workflow prompts. Subscribe for 3 AI workflows a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Next video, I am showing you how to build a monthly market activity report for your active sellers, a professional update document they actually want to read in under 15 minutes. See you then.